toasting, joking too. Sipping and roasting is what we do. Light 'em up, drink 'em down. Whiskey and cigars all around. Cheers, y'all.
That sounds like the beginning of a party, ladies and
Welcome,
gentlemen.
ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza known internationally as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'. Smokin' and Toastin' is heard on all of the major social networks. We're also
Even
available,
where you live, yes.
We're also available on YouTube, all the regular podcast locations, and now heard across the United States or across North America, actually, on great radio stations like... They still haven't given us a list. I have no idea what stations we're on.
Like, insert name of radio station here.
If you are listening and you know the name of the radio station you're listening to us on, do us a favor and send us an email so we can recognize you.
That's right.
See, I've always wanted to do that thing that Casey Kasem did, back in the old American Top 40 days where he'd say, American Top 40 is heard on great radio stations like, and then it'd be something ridiculous like WYRT. Poonville, Alabama. It's like really, But anyway, it's nice to be heard, and it's nice for people to be becoming a part of the Smokin' and Toastin' family. And speaking of family, our guests today kind of feel like Smokin' and Toastin' family members. They've both been on before. We've had great fun with both of them. So please welcome from Pierre Ferrand, Mr. Greg Doxakis.
Maison Ferrand.
Maison Ferrand. I always go with Pierre because that's what's on the bottle, and I always get that wrong. But Maison Ferrand is the larger
Maison Ferrand is the company.
Yes.
And finally, the Spiky Futz is back on the show.
Okay, yeah.
See, I've said that like 10 times. I'm going to get T-shirts made. You haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
Spiky Futz is because I'm a friend of the show, and whenever I'm on, the ratings spike.
There you go.
Spiky Futz. I'm not going to explain that again
It's
next time.
called the Dox effect.
The Dox effect. Yeah, I like it. And not only do we have Dox from Maison Ferrand, which I have to point out includes Plantation rum, because Plantation rum's like sort of a religious thing in our household. But also, we have Mr. Robert Likarish from Iron Root Distillery returning to the show.
How's it going?
Nice to have you. It has been a while since we had you on, and your bottles were a different shape, as I recall.
They were.
Yeah. In fact, the one in my bar is a different shape. But which just goes to show you I haven't quite finished it yet. It's being held for special occasions at this point.
They don't last so long at my house.
Yeah. Well, see, the problem that I have is that whenever a bottle of something gets down to maybe that much left, then I stop drinking it because I'm like, oh no, I don't want to be out of this.
It's going to go away.
Yeah, it's going to go away. Yeah.
You got to do the infinity bottle.
The infinity bottle.
I have an infinity bottle for bourbon, an infinity bottle for scotch, an infinity bottle for cognac and rum. And just when it gets to that last 2 sips, pour it in there and just blend. And inevitably, the best thing behind your bar is always the infinity bottle.
And you have the stones in your glove so that the infinity bottle is always full?
Balanced, as all things should be.
Very good. Just good to know. So we're bringing the spirits together today.
The geekiest way, that was oddly well done.
Yes, it really was. It really was. We can always count on Docs to let the geek flag fly and to make things that if I said them, you'd say they were nerdy. He says them, they're cool. So that's just kind of the way it works. But we have you guys here together because we are in a very real sense bringing the spirits together. Your companies, Plantation Rum and Iron Root Distillery, you guys have been on a bit of a cask sharing mission, have you not?
Yeah, we have. I think it's a little bit more than that because we have lots of partners that we have with our barrel exchange program. But the roots went a little deeper with Iron Root. And do we have time to get in that now, or should we wait till another segment? Because the roots, it's a long story.
Let's hold off on that because we'll do that when we start the tasting here coming up into a couple segments. So actually, we'll start the tasting next segment. But I do want to tell you about a couple of other things that we'll be doing in addition to talking about that. Tasting those spirits. We'll also be tasting some pretty interesting beers from Corrales, New Mexico, and Novo Brewing Company. They're Krispy's Kolsch, which sounds kind of like a Captain Crunch cereal, but it's not.
Awesome,
it's a Kolsch. And then maybe one of the better named beers we've ever had on the program from the Voodoo Brewing Company in Meadville, Pennsylvania. We'll be tasting their Imperial IPA that's named I'm a loner, Dottie, a rebel. Is that like the greatest beer name ever?
I'm a loner, Dottie.
It's like we've had some really good ones. In fact, what was that one? There was one brewery that used to have the really super long ones. You remember that?
I'm blanking on the name of the brewery. But
I am too. We haven't had
beer titles.
We haven't had one of the
entire sentence. And sometimes
elderly woman in a small town behind the counter or whatever that type of
riding
thing.
A subway through New York kind of thing. Yeah.
Nice. We also will be tasting something from 903. 903 Brewers, a very reputable establishment from out of Sherman, Texas. We'll be tasting their American Imperial Stout that I chose strictly for the name, Chupacabra.
Oh, that's just a fun word to say.
That's my fantasy football team is the Chupacabras. That's what they're called. I think someone should name an actual major sports team.
And for those of you outside
Chupacabra.
of the state of Texas and generally southern states, you might want to look up Chupacabra.
Well, it's a mythical creature. It's kind of like Bigfoot or the Yeti or
is it mythical?
Or is it? Yes.
Keep your goats away.
Yeah, but apparently it sucks the blood out of goats, and goats are found. The goat carcasses are found with all the blood drained from them in Mexico, and the legend of the Chupacabra was born. So
that's like the basilope.
Yeah. The basilope is a lot friendlier, I think, than the Chupacabra.
The jackalope.
So in addition to that, we will be telling you about some cigars to watch for. We will be doing the most popular segment on this program, even more popular than the segments where Dox is a guest. So if we have Dox as a guest and this segment on the same show, we're going to be batting it out of the park in this one. Yeah. That, of course, is Drinking News, and today's Drinking News teaser headline is, and it's so appropriate, to quote Beavis, fire, fire, fire. That wasn't a half bad Beavis.
That was good Beavis.
This is not bad. It's been a while since I watched it. Although they do have new Beavis and Butthead episodes, I think, on Paramount Plus now.
Yeah, I have not seen those.
I haven't either. It kind of like, in my brain, that's 20 years ago. I don't know if I really want to watch Beavis and Butthead.
I deleted the file, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, probably.
You got to wonder if it's just the same jokes.
Yeah.
Because it probably is.
Because it probably is.
But I don't know.
Ian, did you have a chance to smoke anything interesting this week?
I did, actually.
Why don't you tell us
I
about
smoked lots of interesting cigars.
Anything legal?
Because it was birthday.
Yes.
But
nothing that I hadn't had before. So I stopped in Casa and picked up a Punch Knuckle Buster.
Ooh, I like the Knuckle Buster.
So, this was the Habano Stubby with a Nicaraguan Habano wrapper, a Nicaraguan Habano binder, and the filler is Nicaraguan Habano and Honduran tobaccos. Almost a puro on that. The appearance on this light brown, leafy, and leathery with some veins. It has this brass knuckle band. That's pretty cool looking. You can see it in the picture right here. And it's firm overall with a few soft spots on it. The pre-light sniff on this, I got earth and leather, sweetened coffee kind of at the foot of the cigar. The pre-light draw, I used a clip on this, had an effortless draw. Earthy and leathery with sweet woody notes is what I got before I lit it. Once I lit it up, I got earth and wood, underlying sweetness and dark fruit. Retrohale was cedar and sweet. The first third of the cigar started off with sweet wood, dark fruit, raisin, earth, and leather. And some random person calling me while I'm trying to read this. Stop it.
I hate when that happens.
it just covers half my screen.
Yeah.
That's so professional of me. So the first third of the cigar starts off with sweet wood, dark fruit, raisin, earth, and leather, settles into a solid medium with massive plumes of smoke, nutty undertones weave throughout. Retrohale is cedar and sweet solid ash, perfect burn. The second third of this comes in. Warm notes of leather and fresh cut lumber ramp up the interest. Dark fruit and raisin remain consistent, followed by a nutty and slightly chocolatey note. The retrohale is sweet and woody with a kiss of spice. Solid ash had a very uneven burn at this point. You can see in that picture right there.
Yeah.
If you're looking at this online or on YouTube. The last third of this, I used my lighter to touch up the burn. It seemed to go okay for a little while. I got most of the same things, but towards the very end, like right about the part where you're like, I'm going to go 100% with the cigar, it got a bit of a bitter kind of...
Some harshness.
Yeah, a little harshness, a little what I described as tangy with a touch of ashtray.
That's not a good...
no, it's not a good bitter. A little touch of ashtray in the aftertaste. The retrohale is woody and sweet, solid ash, uneven burn. So knowing two things about it, the burn had a little unevenness towards the end, and then at the very tail end of this cigar, it gets a little not good.
Yeah.
The cigar is $6.
So it's not like it's a $12
Six
cigar.
and a little bit of change.
Yeah.
And it's a punch, and it's the flavors that I got in there were real good. So I'm going to give it a 5. You're getting $6 worth of cigar here, even if you ditch the tail end of it.
100%. It's when I smoke a $12 cigar and it has a couple of those kind of issues that I'm kind of like, okay. Or even at $8 or $9, it's like, well, I know a lot of other cigars in this price range that don't do that, that are good. So,
no, but it's $6.
But I would say it's $6. Yeah,
I mean, $6 is it's not too bad. That's our new budget end cigar at this point.
You know, I used to smoke my go-to cigar was a $5 cigar back in the day. It was a Rocky Patel Edge.
Yeah.
And that was just, you couldn't do any better for $5.
It was pretty difficult, yeah.
Yeah. Just to be clear, by the way, and for this week's show, I smoked the Rocky Patel 20th anniversary, the Edge Robusto, and I think you've talked about this cigar on the program before. But just to be clear, the original Edge did not come out 20 years ago. According to Rocky Patel Cigars, the 8th different blend of the Edge, which is what this one is, which came out in 2022, and it's called the Edge 20th Anniversary, is so named because it had been 20 years since work on the Edge began. So that's how they're calculating it. I don't want to get anybody caught up in a calendar crisis here. So the Edge 20th is built around an Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper, just like the very first blend of the Edge was, and it uses Habano binder from Honduras and filler tobacco from Honduras and Panama, all blended and rolled at Rocky's factory in Nicaragua. It's a very pretty cigar with a much fancier band than the original Edge. Actually, it didn't even have a band at all when it first came out.
Right.
And then they added the footer band, and then that footer band moved up later. But anyway, it's a nice reddish-brown color, fancy band, appears to the eyes like the whole thing's pretty well put together. The pre-light sniff and draw were fairly mild on this 20th anniversary, a little bit of chocolate and leather, but once I lit it up, the flavor profile of the cigar started to take shape pretty quickly. Nice warm notes of earth intertwined with roasted nuts and red pepper, and as I smoked into the second third, a tea leaf note emerged, along with a creaminess that worked really nicely with all the flavors, which now included the leather that I'd gotten back on the pre-light draw. Around the halfway point, pepper ramped up, taking center stage for most of the rest of the cigar. It was accompanied by a touch of lemon zest, along with the pepper that left a nice tang on the tongue. Final third was pepper, chocolate, leather, black tea, and citrus zest, all working together quite nicely and combining for a really enjoyable smoke. I mentioned the original Edge was my go-to for years, and it was $5, and you just couldn't beat it for flavor and strength. Edge today, the same cigar, runs about $8 to $9 per stick, and the Edge 20th anniversary is $11 to $12, depending on where you get it, which does make me wonder about the marketing strategy. Edge always struck me as kind of like a working class cigar, solid, great for the money, dependable. But with the 20th anniversary, the price tiptoes towards super premium, and it makes me wonder, should this have been marketed maybe as something else that was not the Edge, and just more of a super premium line at a price that's just south of super premium? People don't go to McDonald's for a steak, but you can get a damn good burger at Morton's. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, in the end, it doesn't really matter. Cigar is very good. It's not overpriced. I really enjoyed the Rocky Patel 20th Anniversary Edge, and I recommend it highly. Price to quality, a solid 5.
Nice.
Do you remember what you gave it on yours?
A couple of 5s. As a matter of fact, I had it pulled up here, and I can tell you in 1 second here. Let's pull it up. I give it a solid 5.
Solid 5. All right. Sounds like,
got a lot of the
we're
same
both
notes
on the same page.
You, pulled as well.
I'm very excited about beginning to taste some of these concoctions, and we will do so when we return. You are listening to Smokin' and Toastin', and we'll be right back. Welcome back at Smokin' and Toastin'. Our program is not only heard all over the internet, but also on great stations like WXYZ in Minot, North Dakota, where they may be interested in this. I made that up. There isn't a WXYZ in Minot, North Dakota. But what is happening in North Dakota is that a ban on cigar lounges that's almost 10 years old has just been repealed. And we mentioned this last week, but we didn't get to talk about it. I don't really understand that. Like, why would you ban cigar lounges? If anything, that's where the people who don't want to experience cigar smoke, they should be happy about cigar lounges because they just don't have to go in there.
then it's localized, right?
Exactly. It seems to me like the perfect thing to keep it out of your way if you don't want it at restaurants or bars or even outdoor spaces, which happens sometimes.
You know what you're getting when you go to a cigar
Absolutely, yeah.
It's
kind of like when you walk into a daycare. It's not going to be quiet and peaceful. That's just not what they're about, right? It's going to be, kids playing and running around and having a good time. And it's the same thing in the cigar bar, except there's less running around and the good time is more guys sitting and enjoying a stove.
Like a professional doing shore leave here.
Yeah.
let me tell you something about fizzy beer.
So Ian just poured this ex novo, which we're about to
and
taste
it looks like a Chris Hart poured.
Well, I was just about to say that's exactly.
But
what it looks like.
I actually poured gently towards the side of the glass.
Look at mine. There's like 2-3 times more fizz than there is beer.
So this they may have. We haven't tried it yet, but I'm going to go ahead and say that it might be slightly overcarbonated.
Well, it certainly did. Everybody do that, or
every single one of them.
All right. Well,
I thought it might be the first one, but no, every single one of them did that.
Ex novo. It's Latin for super fizzy.
So you didn't hard pour this. You swear?
No.
Okay.
He watched me.
Yeah. All right. So let's see what we got here. This is very interesting.
He was gentle.
It is very foamy. Everyone gets a little mustache today, whether you came in with one or not.
When you get through the foam, it's actually very good and surprisingly
Your
not
mustache didn't change color.
heavily carbonated.
Oh, you got jokes, huh? You got old man jokes. All right.
So this is a turnabout of the normal dynamic with Dox. Usually he's the one dishing it out. So.
Yeah. Gotta be able to take it.
It is actually oddly good. The nose on it's really good as well. The nose on it's like just very gently malty
and Ex Novo is they're a pretty interesting brewery. They are located in Corrales, New Mexico, and there's some very interesting craft beer stuff going on in New Mexico. I got to stop at one of the craft breweries when I was through there last summer, and just really, really, really great stuff. But this, I feel like, is light. It's very drinkable. You just have to wait for the fizz to go down.
It is so fizzy. I just ever so slightly poured a little more in, and the fizz is not gone. It is.
As you mentioned, though, before we tasted it, it was easy to say this is probably going to be overcarbonated. I don't think it actually is when you drink it. Would you agree?
Well, I'd say it's overcarbonated in the can.
Yeah.
I think that if they leveled out the carbonation and figured that out, it'd be easier to pour. But it does taste good.
Well, yeah. I will just say that when I've had beers that I consider to be overcarbonated, it's because the carbonation actually interferes with your enjoyment of.
All right, so you actually waited until the foam was gone. Like I saw, how is it without foam at all?
Really, really good. I think for me, you get the kind of classic German style on this.
Yeah.
I think that's. It's just that super crisp Kolsch.
There's almost like a tobacco-y finish to it as well that I really, really like kind of that.
It's a little malty,
dark malty
kind
of a dry thing.
Yeah. I think this is very good. I would say this is one that go ahead and pour it into your cold glass. Leave the room, run some errands, make dinner, make a sandwich, and then come back, and it'll be perfect.
Ready to rock and roll.
Oh, and then you can pour the other half of the glass
right,
in there.
Exactly, because you will have the.
You said maltiness, and the way that I described it, first thing came to my mind, it's.
Go ahead.
It's got that maltiness that one would want from a German beer, but it's not so overbearing to where you're tasting it for 6 weeks even after you're done drinking it.
Absolutely,
You know what
I agree totally, and I think there are some German beers that I find too malty like that, but not this one. All right, it's time to start tasting some Iron Root and some Plantation rum, and we'll do that when we come back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We've talked about the cigars. We've tasted the craft beer. Now it's time to talk spirits for a little bit as we welcome back to the program two of our favorite guests, of course, from Plantation Rum and Maison Ferrand, Mr. Greg Doxakis, and from Iron Root Distillery, Mr. Robert Likarish. Welcome back, gentlemen. And it's nice to have you both on here at the same time. But the reason that this came about was not just, friendly let's get on the show and talk about each other's products. But you guys have been collaborating.
I know. It's such an interesting story, but I think that everybody out there would like to know. You talked about your 2 favorite guests. Can you speak about some of your least favorite guests real quick?
Yes, of course. There's Chris Hart, our whiskey
please,
expert. There is Alan Denny. Alan Denny, yes. And we know they're our least favorite because we've been told by at least one person in the Apple reviews of the podcast that nobody cares about those guys. So that's.
Did they really?
Yeah, I have read one half of one review there, and that's what it said.
Negative.
Okay, that's awful.
Yeah.
No, that's terrible.
So that's
lovely guys.
That's where my perspective
Alan
comes
and
from.
Chris, I care. Greg Dox cares.
We do love those guys for real. It's they're welcome on any time, and particularly when like a guest bails at the last minute or something. Then they're really welcome. Helping save our ass. You know what I mean?
Alan's here. Alan, as we all know, it's old standby.
Yeah, that's right.
If you happen to be in the area and you'd like to crash a podcast,
yeah, exactly. So you guys have been collaborating though, and did it start as just a little barrel exchange program and grow from there, or tell me about the whole evolution of this?
I think Rob can explain it best because it was his mother, the first lady of Texas whiskey, that got the whole thing
she's
going.
fantastic, by the way.
She's awesome, yes.
She's a force of nature. I think is the way I like to describe that.
We've had her on. I can identify with this.
She has no fear whatsoever.
Love it.
So things started out actually with Dox at the Houston Whiskey Social. My mom, just being the lady that she is, walked up to him and told him how much she enjoyed Pierre Ferrand stuff, and they kind of hit it off. And next thing I know, she's asking him for if we can go hang out with them in France. So,
nice.
So we got invited over to the chateau.
I should have asked Dox if you and I could go hang out with them in France.
We're going to make that happen someday.
Okay.
I mean,
fair
I'm
enough.
giving you the look right now. Why haven't you?
Yeah,
asked me?
exactly. I just want to mention, by the way, this happened at the Houston Whiskey Social, which is put on by a group of people, including, bring this full circle,
yes,
Chris Hart and Alan Denny are nobody cares about these guys. So obviously somebody cares about them, right?
Oh yeah. No.
Yeah.
So in the kind of crazy thing with this whole story has to do with the cities that obviously Cognac and where our distillery is in Denison. They actually are sister cities because they share this really kind of crazy grape heritage together.
Cool.
That I know I've talked about it.
Is that a made-up thing, or are they actual sister cities declared by the government?
Oh yeah.
It's a real thing, and I can't speak for Denison, but when you're leaving the city of Cognac, or I should say entering and leaving, it'll show you all the sister cities, and there's about 7 or 8, and they're around the world, and one of them clearly there is Denison, Texas.
That's so cool.
And the reason is because in the phylloxera epidemic that wiped out the vineyards of Europe, in the 1800s for nearly 2 decades, the vines, or I should say the roots that they used to graft the vines to make it impervious to the bug came from Denison, Texas.
That's so cool.
Hence the sister city.
Love it.
When they were there, this is just a tremendous story, and I really hope you guys get to meet him someday. We have a historian on payroll. His name is Jacques Blanc. He's an interesting guy.
Amazing guy.
He's like I don't know. He's like 75 years old, but he looks younger than me. And he's had an interesting life. He's got a very he's got a soothing voice. He worked at the Playboy Club in Chicago in the 70s. he's been married a few times.
We want to hear him go, "Hello, lady."
He's bonjour, madame. so it would be he's just a man of the world, but he's a true historian, and we learned so much about the Ferrand family once he got access to some of the family's old archives. But there was one thing that eluded him, and that is there was a gentleman from Texas that he had a picture of but never knew the name, and this is the guy that came over to France and to Europe and kind of showed them this is how we're going to do this, right?
How we're going to beat the bug.
Never knew the name until Marcia brought a book to Jacques as a gift about this guy's life, and he's like, I've been looking for this guy's name for forever, and just
wow,
boom, 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 just pure coincidence that they got an opportunity to go stay out there at our house and spend some time with Jacques and the team, and just this dead end that he had on this research, and she solved it right there. It's amazing.
That's so cool.
That's fantastic.
And the story has just been full of just some really just kind of crazy things that have come around. Like the very first spirits kind of festival, the first time that we ever showed people we were making spirits out in the world was at Tail the Cocktail, and we ended up going to the class that Alexander was doing years ago, I think this is 2014 or 15.
Was this the one where the still almost caught fire?
Yeah.
Yes, that's a good one. That's a good one. Before I joined the company.
I want to be at that one, yeah.
But like after the talk, my brother and I went up there and we were talking with Alexander. My brother handed him our card, and he looked at it and he took it with both hands and goes, "Denison, Texas. Like, you have no idea what that means to me, and one day I'm going to have to make a pilgrimage there because of the sister city situation."
Wow,
and
cool.
Years later, who shows up at Alexander? So
that's awesome.
We got a great picture of Alexander, Bex, and myself in front of the "Welcome at Denison" road sign. It's
nice,
and it's not exactly in a safe area, so we've got Texas traffic zooming past us, going, "We're in Denison."
Quick, take the photo. Well, that's good. So it seemed really like a natural thing then that your two companies would get involved in helping each other out with a barrel exchange program. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. I think that one of the things that we've admired about Ferrand throughout the years, one, the always willing to take chances and experiment with things like with the chestnut barrels, and the fact that they reach out and work with these other companies around the world was something that was, again, collaboration always makes things more fun for spirit producers.
Yeah, so. It's true in everything. I mean, it's true in music. It's true in all kinds of different things. But to be able to see, I love when I pick up a bottle of something and I see that it was done in conjunction with a beer that I know or another spirit that I know. It just adds that extra layer of I got to try this. You know what I mean? So what was the first thing that you guys did from a barrel exchange standpoint?
So the very first thing we actually sent spirit to each other and sat down and talked about the notes and kind of what we liked, and kind of each dreamed up kind of what we thought would be the best pairing. And then it was calling up like, "Hey, do you have a bottle of the Jamaican or the Fiji? Like, add a little bit of your whiskey to it. Tell us what you think about it." And it was playing around with that kind of concepts. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that again.
That sounds like a blast.
Again, my guidance counselor was just completely inept. I did not know these kind of jobs existed when I was in school because I would have jumped into that right away. So, what was the first thing that you collaborated on? That was released to the public.
Well, we got them right here, but we're getting ahead of it, man. We're going to ease into it.
Well, where are we starting?
We're going to start
because I'm thirsty.
We're going to start with a product we just released, which is our brandy, but actually it is what we call the Sister City blend. So this is actually a blend of 10-year-old cognac and 9-year-old Chenin Blanc brandy local from Texas that we distilled.
So the brandy you distilled here and the cognac came from.
We begged them to use our cognac and they wouldn't. No, I'm totally kidding. No, we don't source a lot out because we're pretty much using all that we make.
All that you have. Okay, gotcha.
I had to make do, but having been there and being able to taste some of their stuff, it gave me some inspiration of what to look for and what to do while we were looking.
Cool.
So
again, this process of discovery is awesome.
Yeah.
It really is.
So yeah, and so kind of one of the fun things, we'll get into the spirit when I get you guys little glasses of everything here, if I'm not over pouring everything.
There is no such thing as over pouring.
I don't know what that means.
Smoking and Justin. So.
I mean, challenge accepted.
Excellent. Is that so? This product we put together was actually for the 150th anniversary of Denison.
Okay.
And we used it to actually raise money for the Sister City program. So that's
cool.
What it does is it helps like high school students study abroad for a semester in each of the different cities. So.
Did you get yours?
And that's got to be one of the coolest things about the Sister City program, in my opinion, is I think anytime you give students from one country an opportunity to experience another country with culture and all the different things that are different. Cool. It's one of the best things you could do, I think, in education. But it's not like people can just afford to do that. So it takes these sort of programs to make this absolutely work. So what are we tasting here again? What is this actually called?
So this is called it's called brandy, but it's called the Sister City blend. So you can see the TV Munson photo on the front that we took and made into a little bit of magician.
Oh, so. Nice.
Munson was the guy that
sleight of hand. Mm-hmm. Sleight of hand, and the magician thing comes from.
That's just because it's the blending of the different things together. But so it's actually Munson was the one who did all the research on the grapevine and the roots.
So this is a brandy and a cognac
blended together.
And what percentages?
So this is so you're looking at 20% Chenin Blanc out of Texas and 80% of the cognac.
That's really good.
Does that make it
It's dreadful.
cognac-y?
I'm kidding. No, it's
What did you say?
Does that make it a cognac-y?
A cognac-y, perhaps.
Something along those lines.
so super pear skin right on the nose. It's really beautiful.
It's so interesting because the initial flavor of it has this huge, warm kind of like just palate enveloping thing going on, and when it finishes, it has this kiss of heat that pops up immediately in the best possible way.
Would that be a brandy hug or a cognac hug or a?
It's a little more immediate than just a hug.
Well,
It's, you know,
no, that's true. It does come right on the finish.
The brandy hugs you. The cognac wants to make out.
Exactly.
That works. That works, gentlemen. That's really, really good. So this is wonderful. And what does a bottle like this retail for?
So $59.99 is what we sell it for.
That's pretty impressive.
It's so
beautiful.
interesting. Like this isn't like the other bottles that I've tried before.
Well,
Make it that
how many
awkward.
bottles of blended brandy and cognac
No,
have you had before?
I don't think I've ever tried a blended cognac and brandy before. Have I?
That's awesome.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Not a lot of those out on the market.
We haven't had. I know we haven't had one on the show.
Are
so-
there other ones out that we know
I
of?
almost made a joke, but gosh, I don't want to get sued by the big company. So no, you haven't tasted a brandy cognac blend before.
There's a lot of jokes that I'm not saying because radio.
You can still say the jokes. You just have to come up with a few different words. That's all. That's all. And if you happen to let one of the other words drop, that just means Adam in the cloud has more work to do when he edits the show this week. So
Thanks ahead of time, Adam.
That'll totally work. All right, so we were going to taste two things in this segment. So hard to move on from this though because I really like it. Where are we going next?
We're going on back to bourbon next. So.
All right. You guys are known for this, so
Oh yeah.
That's like a country song right there.
Does anyone
Back to
need
bourbon? Yeah.
Does anyone need a pour glass?
got one here. I think we're good. So we got
I'm going to start my own little infinity cup here.
about.
So by the end of today,
I like that. That's a good idea.
There was like a couple episodes long back where I accidentally drank the dump cup instead of what
The
they were
infinity
serving.
cup?
I was like, going, that's got a lot going on, man.
Talk about complexity. So, guys, we got about 3 minutes left in this segment, so I want to make sure we get time to
the high class version of a
to
Matt
do the-
Dillon, right?
Yeah, that's right. We'll make sure we take the time to taste this bourbon appropriately. Now, is this something new from your lineup?
This is something new. So this is actually a product you can find in Total Wines across the country, and this is something that we actually came up with at Ferrand at the mansion. So one night while we were there, we were one of the gentlemen who came with us. His name is Chris Trevino, Liquor Hound on YouTube. And he was lamenting that the fact that in rum, you see a bunch of calm still and pot still distillate being blended together, but you didn't really see that in American spirits. And so I looked at him and I was like, Chris, well, we make funky pot still bourbons, and we know if you guys make the really clean, beautiful calm still bourbons, it's like we can do that. And so next thing I know, we get back and we start blending and start doing some really fun finishes. So basically, the Saints Alley line across the country that you can find is basically inspired by our time over in Cognac. And
So Saints Alley is the name of this particular line in your portfolio.
The label's real pretty, by the way.
Yeah, it really is. This is the Herald Special Edition?
So this is the Herald. It is aged in both Pinot de Charente, which I fell in love with while in Cognac, and Armagnac casks. So
Nice.
Two things
Well,
that
it-
don't hate.
Just the finish alone on this has so much going on.
I was going to say it gives it a really, really complex finish. It's not as straightforward as a bourbon finish often is. It's got a little more going on.
It's spicy too.
Yeah, it's a high rye. Oh, yeah.
Spicy.
Is this what is the ABV on this? Is it
It's 107.
107?
The nose on it, guys, I'm telling you, it was a flashback to walking through the aging warehouses, or I should say the cellars in Cognac.
Yeah.
That's delightful. Y'all should,
You know,
I'm very proud of that one. That's good.
I think for people who want to try, cognac, but they haven't quite developed the taste for it, this would be a perfect way to sort of take a step in that direction. It's definitely a bourbon, but it's got some of those notes, some of those cognac notes from the. It's really, really good. I mean, it's just hard to even.
It's got this mineral back to it.
Yes,
It's
for
just
sure.
That I absolutely love that. And that to
sure.
me seems like a very Texas whiskey kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Texas and France it's an interesting combination. It seems to be working.
Hey.
I've been proving that for 7 years now.
I love it. I love it. All right, let's take a break, and we will return for more tasting. This is absolutely wonderful, and I will finish it during the break. It's Smoking and Toasting. I like that sound. That is the sound of refreshment coming our way. And welcome back to Smoking and Toasting. It's show number 326. We are 7 weeks away, ladies and gentlemen, from our big anniversary celebration, the 333rd show. And I sure hope both of you guys are going to be there. It's going to be Doc's making a face. Are you out of town?
I think I might be in Arkansas.
Well,
You and your excuses.
yeah, of all places.
Living the high life that I am.
All right.
Old Champagne Docs over here.
Yeah. That's the way it rolls. So Ian just opened our can of maybe the best named beer we've ever featured on the show. I don't know if it's good. I haven't tried it. I'm excited about Voodoo Brewing though, because they seem like a pretty progressive brewery. They're out of Meadville, Pennsylvania, and this is. The robots on the
robots
cover,
on
and I think we have some good B-roll of that too. But the
I'm a
robots on
loner,
the cover
Dottie.
are
The rebel.
Yeah, I mean that's just one of the greatest quotes from one of the greatest movies of all time. I'll tell you a quick story while we're sampling. When I saw that movie, I was an on-air DJ working the overnight shift, which nobody does anymore. It's all just computers in the middle of the night. But I was working the overnight shift, which meant about 1 or 2 in the afternoon was when I'd wake up and start my day. So I went to see Pee-wee's Big Adventure when it came out at an afternoon matinee in the summer. And it wasn't until I got into the theater that I realized it was full of little kids. I was like one of only a handful of adults in there, and this whole auditorium full of little kids was watching the Pee-wee movie. That was what I thought at first, but it turned out to be awesome, because every time Pee-wee said, "I know you are, but what am I?" or whatever, the whole auditorium would erupt in kid laughter, and it was kind of a special experience, I have to say.
Sure, we have time for this story.
I don't
this
think
segment.
we do. Let's do some tasting, shall we? Thank you for bringing us back to reality here. I'm a loner, Dottie, a rebel. It's an IPA from Voodoo. It's an Imperial, so it's a pretty big one. What do you think, Ian?
It's big, it's balanced, it's malty up front, and it's bitter, and pretty quick to finish on the end. It leaves a slight sweetness.
It's
on
not
the
leaving
lips.
you tons of bitter on the end, is it?
No, actually there's a slight sweetness to the aftertaste that's really interesting.
Now, Docs, you're not really an IPA guy. Is this one too big for your particular taste?
The first smell and sip, I enjoyed it. Almost got a grapefruit skin thing going there, but just like chewing on a piece of grapefruit skin, it gets old in about 10 seconds. So second sip I didn't enjoy.
Robert, what about you?
I absolutely love the nose on this one.
Yeah.
Palate was really fun kind of up front, but again, as it sits and gets more and more bitter, it's not necessarily
It
my
does
favorite,
seem
though.
to get more bitter way after the finish,
It's a lot.
But Ian has been quick to point out, and did during the break, that often these big IPAs go really well with ryes. And so, very quickly, Robert poured us some rye. What is this rye?
It is.
Or should I say Ermiger?
What is the rye we're tasting here?
Wait till you see this.
This is another of the Saints Alley. It's called the Nobleman. And this one is a rye finished in...
Tokai casks, which is...
What is that?
It is a noble rot wine, kind of like Sauternes out of France, but it's made in Hungary rather than in
Wow, Ian, that
France.
That works rather well together, wouldn't you say?
It's really, Dox is having issues with it, but it's pretty good.
This is what it smells like when we burn staves in the fire in France. I'm not kidding. It's I'm taking me back. I'm not even here right now.
So is that a good thing or a bad thing?
So
It's
it's
a wonderful
offering
thing.
an experience.
It's a wonderful thing.
I'm digging this. I think that, first of all, I like the IPA, but you knew I was I was going to.
You're predetermined
Yeah.
to some degree.
I don't like every IPA, but I do like this one, and I think it is definitely big, but it's got the
You've
bitter
got to
on
want
it.
At some point in time, we can help you pray the IPA away.
Oh, is that what you can do? Conversion therapy? I've had a few.
You weren't born this way.
No, yeah.
Oh, that's sorry. I am making jokes.
A
just
learned
like-
behavior. Is that what you're
I'm going to
saying?
move a couple of seats down
Yeah.
that way, so just so when the lawsuits come in,
Disassociate yourself from that. Yeah, no. I'm on the right track, baby. I was
totally
born this way.
moving right
I'm
onto
an
this rye, though.
IPA person.
This rye is
Rye is
pretty
delicious.
outrageous.
Yeah, it really is. And it actually goes well with this IPA. Most of the time, ryes and IPAs go well together. And it's interesting that ryes also go, in my experience, very well with cigars, while IPAs do not always go well with cigars. But there's something about the spiciness of the rye really works well with a with
It's
a
really
good
interesting. The spiciness on this rye is like on the outside and back of the tongue. It's not up front where you normally get the spicy. It's
Wow.
way back here, kind of in its own area.
If you go back to the Voodoo IPA, I'm a Loner, Dottie, a Rebel, after the rye, it's like Grapefruit City. But kind of a still the grapefruit skin thing, but even more pronounced than what it was like before.
Don't do this, Doc. You'll hate that.
Yeah. I don't think it's for you.
No, I have to.
But for the rest of us, cheers, and we'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting.
Cheers.
What is the...
I hope the camera's on Ian right now, because that's the greatest little white dude dance ever. Very nicely done.
Yeah, back the lip.
Welcome back. It is. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are on show number, 326, for those who have been around the program for a while. And we're, of course, now heard on the Audio One radio network on the weekend. So thank you to anyone who is tuning into us for the first time. While you're uncorking that bottle, Doc, you said something during the break about the rye, and I wanted to get you to repeat it, the rye that we just tasted here, because it was exceptionally good.
I mean, the thing is, my liver's been around the block. I'm hard to impress. But this just...
I think I passed by it one time on a New York City street.
Yeah, I think so.
Almost
It was crying.
So you're saying you're hard to impress?
Well, no.
Listen,
but it's here's the thing. This particular rye was nothing short of miraculous, and what I mean by that is that the alcohol on the nose was practically non-existent. Normally, especially with the overproof, well, let's say over 100 proof spirit, you got to put little something in it, a drop of water, just to cut through the alcohol so that you're really tasting and smelling the spirit. But it was all right there. I was blown away. Honestly blown away.
Very, very, very good
Beautiful
stuff. Now, we know the guys at Iron Root are never afraid to experiment, which is one of the things I think is so cool about what you guys do. But you don't necessarily think of that when it comes to every whiskey distillery. And that's why I was so surprised, we'll see if this surprises you the way it did me, to discover that Buffalo Trace is about to release a peated whiskey.
What?
Yeah, okay, that was my reaction. Was that yours
knew
as well?
This.
So I've known this for a little while, just because people would go up and visit Buffalo Trace, and that was always the picture that they would take. Be like, "What in the world is this?"
Okay, so it's
called burning peat moss.
Yeah. So what do you think of that? I mean, is it cool? Is it fun? I mean, obviously none of us have tasted it, but is it a cool idea? Would you guys ever do something like that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, most definitely. I think the very first time I ever heard of someone doing that, especially with bourbon, was Kings County out of New York. Did a really cool one. Nicole Austin was there at the time when they did that. It was a really cool. That really kind of stuck around. And we actually do every year a corn whiskey that we age in port casks in peated single malt barrels that has like a smoky.
Has a little bit of that peat smoke.
It,
sure, yeah.
But nothing in the actual distillate.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. It'll be interesting to watch. Well, experimentation has to be at least a part of what brought your two companies together to start doing not just a barrel exchange, but something even more involved. So tell us about that.
No question about it. We're definitely kindred spirits because there's something that we have in common other than just the connection between cognac and Denison, and that is both our philosophy is to push the boundaries of what's expected from our respective spirits. We can have respect for tradition and not be bound to it,
right?
And not be afraid to do something completely different. And now something completely different. And speaking of, what we're tasting right now is our Jamaica 2007 that has been aged inside their is it rye casks? Bourbon cask. Thank you. Bourbon cask. The next one.
Just speaking generally, I've always loved your Jamaican rums. They have just a wonderful, just a wonderful quality about them. Jamaican rums have a tendency to be maybe a little more of that
Funk.
rubbery funk. That I don't know how else to describe
But this
it.
is like
gotta be a better way.
George Clinton kind of funk.
Right.
This is like
exactly. This is we want the
This
funk.
is not like
Gotta have
this
that
is not
funk.
like the high school swim locker kind
Right.
of like funk. This is like
Thank you for calling that memory back.
I'm gonna be honest. When you said that right now, I thought you said Bill Clinton funk, and I was
No.
like, he plays the sax,
Yeah,
but I don't know about
That's
funk.
about as funky as it
playing the
gets.
sax for George or for Bill Clinton is questionable.
Oh, no, I
that's
mean,
he plays, but plays is kind of in
Yeah,
air quotes.
well,
I may have left a little bit of funk behind the White House desk. All right, sorry, radio.
No!
Sorry, Adam. Sorry.
What have you done? I love right when you get the nose on this has that funk, and I love it. That Jamaican funk. There's just no other way.
So, but here's the thing, though.
It's beautiful.
You
It is a
talked
beautiful
about
thing.
what you talked about a tendency from Jamaican rums, and let's be very clear about what that means. And because even though there's definitely a style in the Terroir Jamaican rum, it really it depends on not only what the still they're using, which is
Sure.
most parts going to be pot still, what we're doing, but it's also is it going to be a muck pit based rum, if you based on the word or not. So this one comes from Clarendon Distillery. We have two in Jamaica. We have Clarendon and we have Long Pond. Both very old distilleries. Long Pond does use a muck pit in production. We do not. So they do not at Clarendon. So this one is not going to have that extra funk that you get. And a muck pit, and by the way, I owe you guys an apology. This was one of the second show I ever did with you guys. I really, really dumbed down the definition of what a muck pit is.
Well, that's because you were working with us, and you were concerned we would need to understand.
Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Yeah, exactly.
Barney style.
So a muck pit is something that it's indescribable in a way that there is going to be some dunder in there, but there's also going to be some cane juice and some other leftover cane spirit. Everything, whatever crawls in there and dies and all kinds of bacteria and that sort of thing. It's actually a disgusting little process, but they are going to take that and put it inside the next fermentation, sort of that whole sour mash mentality.
So
Okay?
why is that a good idea?
Well, it's a good idea because people like that kind of taste, and not to go too far. Some the people that like a funky Jamaican rum, that's why. It's not
Okay.
for everybody. Now this one's
Ian
like
just
again,
raised his hand.
So,
It's
but,
for
but,
him.
but yeah, this one is from Clarendon. No muck pit in this one, and not to go too far off roading. And we'll talk about this soon when it does come out. We're creating a muck pit in Barbados, which is pretty rare, unheard of.
I was going to say,
And we're going to be doing some rums, more of that Jamaican style in Barbados soon.
as much as I love Jamaican rums, Barbados rums, there's just something wonderful about the Barbados rums that I have had, but this will change things a little bit, won't it?
Well,
This will add more of the funk, if you will.
absolutely,
to
but
Barbados
again, when you say change, it's not permanent change. It's just
Right,
something we
it's
do.
a thing you're gonna
we
do.
covered outside the lines a little bit, and we're going to still
love
continue to do traditional Barbados rums, and we're going to still continue to do pot still, and we're going to do some blends. But just we like to play around. We got some saltwater fermentation going on right now.
You guys have, still have with your Isle of Fiji and with the Stiggins Fancy Pineapple, you have some of the most reasonably priced, super premium rums in the business. These,
Well,
though,
I did mention that the price of glass went
I
up twice in
know,
cognac, so
I get it. I get it. Everything's
you
going
jinxed
up.
it, Cruz.
Everything's going up. But no, but my thought is that these, I'm assuming this is a more expensive bottle, but I think these totally deliver on their price point.
I think I paid $65 for it.
Really? Now, I was going to think it would be more than that.
It's currently on sale at Total Wine, though it's not an exclusive. It's available at any retailer, but I currently found this one at the Total Wine right down the street on San Felipe.
That's great.
This is
For
outrageously
what?
good. This is
I think 65. I think.
That's brilliant.
there's like this toasty kind of oaky finish to this that's just like I could sit there and take a sip and then like enjoy the aftertaste for.
I almost get a little bit of like toasted marshmallow, like not the sugary marshmallow, but the taste that marshmallows have when you toast them in the fire. That sort of outside, really interesting. I like this a lot. So this is a 2007. What does that mean?
It means that it was first distilled in 2007.
So that's the first distillate of this. Okay.
Let me think here. I'm going to remember. I think it's 10 years in a bourbon barrel. Let's see here. We do a lot of rum, so it's hard for me to remember. 11 years in bourbon cask, 3 years in the Ferrand cask, and a year in the Iron Root Republic bourbon cask.
Wow. Very nice.
Think about $65 for a 15-year-old cask strength rum. Like there's nobody doing that on the market.
100%. That's very impressive.
Listen,
we all know the bottle costs $5 more.
My older brother was in
than
town.
it did before. So
My older brother was in town, and at the risk of making this a popular thing, I turned him on to the Isle of Fiji rum.
Yep.
That is less than $30 for a bottle.
Yep.
It's so good.
That is.
He goes, is it a sipping rum? I was like, oh yeah. And dude, changed his life. He's like, I'll be buying more of that on my way home.
There are 3 things that we are never without at my house, and 2 of them are plantation rums. Yeah, one's Space City vodka, because that's what I use to make gimlets and martinis, and it's extremely affordable and wonderfully distilled. And the other 2 are plantation rums, the Isle of Fiji and the Fancy Pineapple. Those are always in stock at Casa de Cruz. You can come over anytime, and we'll enjoy one together.
God, they are so close to that trip to France, guys. It's just it's this close, man.
But I enjoy having other plantation rums too, and this one seems like a really good candidate at what would you say, around $65 on sale? So
I think so. Yeah.
Do you
want to taste its sister bourbon there?
Let's do that. Yes, this is about cross pollination, but. I will point out that I'm not going to pour this out. So
we have a fresh glass.
Fill mine last. That is such good stuff. I mean, to me, it's like I don't know. I just think back to my college days of doing shots, and what a waste of time and alcohol that was.
That toasted sweetness,
just
on
being
top
able
of the funk.
Bring all this in is so great.
Well, who do you think you're kidding doing shots back in college? You and Mary were probably doing shots off the balcony this past weekend.
No, we don't do shots. We literally if it doesn't sip, we're not that interested.
Got it.
But that's not to say I don't sip quickly. Okay. I could be accused of that, but
if it don't sip, you must have quit.
He doesn't take shots. He just sips it all at once.
Yeah, that's right. It's a super fast sip. Okay, so Robert, what are we tasting here now?
So we've moved on to our funkier side of stuff that we do, and that's going to be our pot still heirloom corn bourbon. So one of the things that Texas has become known for is they call this what they call the Texas funk, and that comes a lot, again, as we were talking about earlier, that style of still that you use really does impact what you're doing.
Wasn't that a Stevie Ray Vaughan album?
Yeah.
Texas Funk? Texas Flood, I'm sorry.
Should have been Texas Funk.
Yeah, that would have worked. So,
Texas whiskeys have that minerality that is just so prevalent in everything.
I'm going to tell you, Texas whiskeys, in my opinion, I would put them on par with anything coming out of Kentucky or Tennessee. I really believe that. I don't think there's any reason not to hold them in the same regard.
I mean, I'm going to be right there with you. I mean, obviously, I'm slightly biased on that topic, but it's what the big thing for people to understand. It is a different style of bourbon for the most part. So just like you'd have like peated scotches and like Highland scotches, Texas bourbons, especially when you get into this pot still version, what you're doing is it's going to be a completely different flavor profile. You're going to be emphasizing what's going on with the grain more. That's where you're getting that minerality from. It's really kind of the mineral from the soil, so the corn's absorbing.
And remind me again what this is finished in?
So this is finished in the plantation rum casks. So
nice.
Do you recall what country?
I believe these are Fiji, actually.
Fiji.
Yeah. So
no wonder I'm loving this.
So I think we had some Fiji, some Jamaican, and there was a handful of cognac Sauternes cognac casks as well.
You take a sip of this, and the flavors are so warm and inviting, and then you breathe out, and it's just just the flavor explosion on the palate as you breathe out gently is so amazing.
I'm really loving today's show. Really loving it. All right, we got to take a break from today's show, and we will be back with more tastings. And, of course, we're just moments away from drinking news. Stand by. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And
love those things.
Ian is pouring some of the craft beer that we mentioned a moment ago, I want to tell you about our guys in the studio today are all about collaboration. Partagas Cigars is doing their very first collaboration. This is a brand that has been around for many, many years, and they are collaborating on something called the Partagas de Bronce, which is handcrafted in Miami by the Cuban expatriate rollers of the famous El Titan de Bronze cigar factory. The cigar's name calls upon the Spanish spelling of bronze in tribute to the origins of Partagas and El Titan de Bronze, and it was blended by Justin Andrews with Sandy Coates and the blending team at El Titan de Bronze. So this is the first ever collaboration. You've seen so many other, Rafael Nadal and AJ Fernandez have collaborated. Yeah. So many different people have collaborated among the different cigar companies, but not Partagas. They've been. By the way, I didn't wind up with one of the beers somehow. Will you do another pour?
How did that happen?
I think I passed it on to a producer because remember when we have. Oh, okay, that's what happened.
That's what happened.
All right, keep that. We have everybody. Yep. Everybody's taken care of, and now we have an extra, so one of us will
now
drink
it's
that.
mine.
Okay, fair enough. But one of the things that we always do with our engineers make sure we're, giving them some nice pours during the show.
If he doesn't get samples, he might ask for,
a raise. Yeah, exactly. That's what we're trying to prevent. So that's the way it goes. The beer that Ian has poured here is from.
It's eliciting a reaction.
Did Doc spill beer, or was that you?
No, it's so bad. The
bottle had a little eruption there?
No, Docs is just not a fan.
I think I'd rather have him running with a real Chupacabra than this.
Okay, wow. Okay, so an early weigh in there from Docs. This is an Imperial Stout, and I believe that it is...
it's not what I'd call subtle.
Okay.
That's for sure. I like it. This is the kind of beer that I like. What
does the bottle tell us about this?
This is dark enough and sticky enough to where if you accidentally put a couple drops between two pieces of wood, you will never get them apart.
Okay. This is your kind of beer, in other words.
Yes, this is very much. This is 13%.
So a very low ABV is what you're saying.
13%.
Day drinker, if you will.
Yeah.
Yes, and then it says, it says here, according to the Surgeon General, women should not drink alcoholic beverages during pregnancy. I feel like they just lifted that from someone else's.
Yeah, I think I've seen that on another beer before. That's a little plagiarism.
Barrel-aged stout, aged on spiced rum, oak, cinnamon, nutmeg, brown sugar, and coconut. It's pretty damn sweet.
So, Docs, this is not your cup of tea. No.
Okay. Do you know these guys? Are you friends with them?
Yes, I do.
Wait, what?
This is aged and he used our barrels for this.
Oh, it's wonderful. I love
it. Jeremy Roberts is the the owner there, and he and my brother were actually neighbors when we first moved up to Denison.
Nice.
They lived next to each other, and so they're very early beers. My brother was a guinea pig for.
Well, wow. Well, as my grandfather used to say, if everybody liked the same thing, I have to keep a closer eye on your grandma. So.
Yeah, that's for sure. I hadn't heard that. That's good. I like this. I think it's very, very well rounded. Sometimes you get these Imperial Stouts that have the cacao nibs thing, and they have a tendency to go a little bitter. This one just is gritty and delicious.
I would drink this floating down the river. I don't care.
Yeah, I know. This is who you are.
That does not bother me at all.
And I'm glad to know that you're that. And by the way,
this beer is so dark it will stain everything it touches, including your fingers. By the way,
including your soul.
I'm not joking about that.
Yeah.
That's for real.
See, that's why I don't have a soul. I don't have to worry about that sort of thing.
I sold that off years ago.
Yeah, well,
using it.
I actually really like this, and probably even more than I normally like an Imperial Stout like this. To me, this one it's got this little sweetness kick to it that it makes it really makes you kind of really want more. which I kind of do.
More, yeah.
So
if you're wanting a clean, traditional Imperial Stout, this is not the beer that you're going to want to be drinking.
And
there's also this beautiful little alcoholic kick in the very, very back of it.
And I just want to say, as the IPA guy on the show, I'm glad to have a guest on the show who doesn't particularly like a beer that isn't an IPA, because usually it's the anti-IPA crowd that I have to grapple with. But Docs, you go, and I'll drink your portion of this because it's pretty damn good. We'll be right back.
Start our own club, IPAA.
Drinking news is next, as if that was appropriate, and we have still a surprise from Docs to taste, which I'm getting pretty excited about. So stand by. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting, our program all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We just had a very divisive craft beer in the last segment. That was the 903 Chupacabra. I liked it just because of the name.
It's over the top.
Also
it's
thought it
ridiculous.
was delicious.
It's way too sweet. It's got too much stuff going on.
And
I really like it.
Yeah, exactly. Doc's not so impressed, but that's all right. This is one of the
Doc
things.
was trying to shave his tongue between segments there. He's trying to get it off. I was like,
And again, it wasn't because of an IPA, so I'm excited to report that. But it's one of the reasons, seriously, the whole concept of the show exists. We'll try these things. We'll tell you what we get, and then hopefully that can help inform your decisions.
It's entirely
if
up
you're
to you.
into this type of beer, this is a good one. If you're not, definitely stay away. This is not a bridge product. So
Bob, how old are you?
I'm 36.
Okay, so no, you weren't. So the three of us, I think that we were young adults and sexually active during the original Chupacabra mystery days. You know what I mean?
So define sexually active.
Well, I mean, we were old enough to consent. He was
Gotcha.
a young man.
Yeah,
Not that the one has anything to do with the other. I don't know why I threw that out there. It kind of just fell out.
What do you
Where
have
I'm
to
going
do to
with
qualify
this
as
is
being
that
active?
Chupacabra.
Sometimes Doc's thoughts just spill right out. it's like, oops, I nudged that glass
we were
a
of
little
the
too far.
proper
one
age
side.
of that. Anyway, my point is that we lived through the whole Chupacabra hysteria, if you will,
Yes.
where there was moments where like, okay, is this real? You know what I mean?
Right.
It was like a real thing. It was on the news. It was like people were actually talking about like it was
It was
gonna
on the
happen.
Weekly World News.
Listen, if I had the
don't remember
opportunity to prove the existence of either A, Bigfoot, B, the Loch Ness Monster, or C, the Chupacabra, I would go Chupacabra every time. It's just too cool. The Chupacabra is too
It's
cool.
the least scary of those three options, too. It's just killing goats. It's
Speaking
fine.
of the least
It's fine.
scary of three options, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Drinking News.
Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a strange gator. Where do my words go?
Docs is really throwing you off on today's show, isn't he?
A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Drinking News is in the house, and here's a little free legal advice from Smoking and Toasting. I should stress, by the way, that none of us here are lawyers, and we certainly would not pretend that we're experts in the law in any form or fashion, and that, in fact, you should follow any advice that we might give on this or anything else, for that matter,
Have you been
at your own
injured in a
risk.
car accident?
Yeah, you should take any advice we might give at your own risk, especially if it's from Ian and it involves Malort. just saying from personal experience. That said,
I support all those suggestions, by the way.
That said, some things are just so plainly obvious that we don't feel like we're wading into any dangerous territory by weighing in on them a bit. So here goes. If you're in trouble for doing something bad, the legal defense of, hey, I do stupid stuff when I'm drunk, is probably not going to help you too much in a court of law.
I mean, it is a true thing.
Yeah.
Like, just because you're telling the truth doesn't make you not dumb.
And I can factually say, though, that I've never seen that defense work on any episode of Law & Order. So there's that, at least.
Very
right?
rarely.
It didn't work for my mom or dad.
So it's probably also not going to help a Florida man who's been charged with 2 counts of arson. It seems that Anthony Thomas Tarduno. Why do you know already just by the name? I don't know.
I love that every time it's a Florida man, you got to have 3 names like a serial killer. Like
exactly.
Like before this story starts, I just want to start off with that.
Yeah.
Like if it was someone from Tennessee, it'd be like
Bob Smith.
Yeah, Bob Smith or whatever.
Yeah, no, it's Anthony Thomas Tarduno, because of course it is, of Springhill, Florida. And he was enjoying a little early happy hour several months ago with his favorite libations in a bar in Hernando County. Tarduno decided that he'd head on home, or maybe even to the next bar, around 4:30 p.m., and when he exited the building, he spotted a police patrol car in the parking lot. And to quote the deputy's report, decided he'd like to set it on fire.
Oh, well, yeah. Well,
yeah.
As one does.
Yes.
There are so many things that we could say here, but I'll wait because
That old chestnut.
the story continues. The Florida man then went dumpster diving in the bar's large metal waste bin and retrieved a bag of garbage, which he dragged to the patrol car and placed beneath the vehicle. He then did exactly what you're thinking he did. He set the bag of trash on fire.
Well,
because
that's what you do.
Florida. Yeah. Then, according to sheriff's deputies, he fled the scene.
Hey, man, when in Florida, do what the Floridians do.
Or not.
He's trying to reduce the amount of trash going into the dump, is what I just heard.
Right.
According to sheriff's deputies, he then fled the scene, but returned after a while to confess because, and again I'm quoting here, he felt bad. He had a defense, though. And while it's not clear if he'll actually use this defense in court, he told the officers that he was, quote, intoxicated at the time and that he, quote, does stupid stuff when he's drunk. How do you think that worked out for him?
That's more jacked up than a rattlesnake and a lawnmower.
I'm sorry to that. I do stupid when I'm drunk. Yeah. Well, see ya.
You know, sometimes I say things.
Yeah. And do things. The sheriff's office says the trash was placed directly under the gas tank, which caused severe damage to the car when it was on fire. And we actually have a picture here that Adam will super up for that if you're watching on video. Officials say that Tarduno was cooperative with deputies and proudly told them that he was, again quoting here, a professional arsonist, end quote, who has been convicted of similar crimes.
Oh,
because, that'll help.
Yeah.
He also attempted to bolster his case.
He's been drunk a lot
by telling them that he didn't target the patrol car specifically, and that he would have set fire to any car in the location because, again, I'm not so sure if you're strengthening your case here, Florida man. As we mentioned, Tarduno was charged with 2 counts of arson, and his bail was set at $30,000. So, our decidedly non-expert legal advice, maybe come up with a better defense than I do stupid stuff when I'm drunk.
Was he bragging when he was talking about the other fires?
Yeah.
Remember that school fire in 83? That was mine.
Because I do stupid stuff when I'm drunk, but almost anything would be better than that excuse. Say you were just doing...
What about the time travel defense? What about, I was here at a bar drinking, and the next thing you know...
I think it could work.
Right, that's time travel.
Yeah.
It's hard to argue with that.
You have to have requisite intent on some of the things, so you could get to a downgrade of what you're going to be charged
or
with.
say you were just doing your part to defund police, because that's apparently something that people get all up in arms about, right? Say you thought you saw a troll under the car and you were just trying to smoke him out and things got a little out of hand. Or maybe just tell him you watched an old Beavis and Butthead episode and got carried away when Beavis started chanting, fire, fire, fire. Because as you know, in this day and age,
He said fire.
you can blame everything on the media and people just might believe you. Reporting live from Hernando County, where I'm glad I don't have any matches with me, because there's a purple 1972 AMC Gremlin in the parking lot here that's just asking for it. My name is Cruz, and that is your...
Drinking news. There's our time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. Can you believe we took up 8 minutes of a segment with that?
I think you were wrong about nobody at this table being a lawyer, though.
Oh, yeah. Are you actually a lawyer, Rob?
I'm not actually a lawyer, but I did
But you
graduate.
play one on TV.
I graduated from law school, so.
Oh, okay.
You're
Well,
just one bar exam away.
Exactly.
yeah, that could work.
But he couldn't pass the bar. In his defense, I haven't passed the bar in my whole life.
I always stop at the bar.
That would have required me to actually take
Was that
the bar.
Henny? That was Henny Youngman originally, wasn't it? I think it was. You kids who are too young to know who Henny Youngman is, look him up. Google him on that smarty phone of yours.
That's
all right.
another
If
show.
only there was a supercomputer in my hand that I could ask
that's
questions.
exactly right.
All
Yeah.
right, do we have time for the surprise?
Oh, we certainly do.
Remember that Isle of Fiji rum that you love so much?
Yes, I do love the Isle of Fiji.
Surprise! Fiji rum aged in iron root Prometheus whiskey barrels.
Oh, wow.
Now this one will not be here till later this year, and this one will be. It's a total wine
But
barrel pick.
You
will
have
be,
it in the most adorable little
It
bottle.
will be
ever.
coming out, though, you're saying, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
God, I had a joke there and I just swallowed it.
Yeah, all right, good deal. Good to know. Good to know.
I love your phone cover, by the way.
I had that custom made.
That's pretty amazing.
Oh, wait. We're going more.
No.
I've forgotten what was what.
We got it.
I apologize.
We got it all.
All right, we're trying to make
do
sure
this.
everybody gets. All right, so this is
Oh.
exciting.
Just the nose.
So repeat again for me. This is
is
Isle of
amazing.
Fiji rum.
Wait, no, this is rum from Fiji. It's not,
I'm sorry, it's not Isle of Fiji specifically, but rum
no,
from
no,
Fiji.
yeah, because this one's going to be. Doesn't say here. On
Little
the,
higher
doesn't
proof.
say here on the front of the label, but just from the nose alone, I'm guessing this is all going to be pot still rum.
I'm guessing from the nose alone, it's going to be delicious.
I love this so much.
Where the Isle of Fiji is going to be a blend of pot still
Right,
and column
right.
rum.
Sure.
Yeah. So I honestly I don't know the specifics on this one. Doesn't say so on the little label here. And again, we make a lot of rum. But yeah, it's going to spend some time not only in the bourbon barrels in Fiji and of course the cognac barrels in France, but it's going to spend some time in the Prometheus barrels.
When your
This
apology,
is what I want my mouth to always taste like.
yeah, I love that. When your apology includes the line, "We make a lot of rum," I think that says something about you, and something actually rather positive, to be honest.
So this one,
This is
spicy,
oh my
spicy,
goodness,
spicy.
this is over the top flavor wise. Like it's almost too much. It's so good.
practically no fruit on this at all. It's all spice. It's all spice, but just lovely warming on the palate. You know.
Yeah, solid spice.
Docs, do you get spoiled by the caliber and the quality of what you're able to have access to on a regular basis? Because I know I do, and just from doing the
I
show.
wouldn't say spoiled because I think spoiled is is when you don't appreciate something anymore.
Right.
And I still very much so appreciate it. I'll when you've been to the house and you've seen my collection,
Sure.
I'll just walk up there and gaze at it lovingly. Now when I'm in a drinking mood, I just kind of look at it and just look at all my trophies and stuff. And one of my favorite things when we go to France is to climb the barrels and the plantation aging facilities. And it's kind of fun taking people there because we have a Trinidad over here, we have a Fiji over here. Hey, I found a Guadalajara over here, a Guatemala, and that sort of thing. And just we get it from I say Guadalajara, Guadalupe or Guatemala. We don't do a Guadalajara rum. Actually, maybe we do, but
If anybody
have a
did,
lot
it
of
would be you
rums.
guys. Yeah,
but
we have a lot of rums.
just it's fun to explore. That's one things that our hands aren't tied by any particular terroir from one country. We get to play around. Again, we have our distillery in Barbados and 2 in Jamaica, but we still get rum from all over the world.
I love that.
Would you
And-
mind explaining the Prometheus? Because we don't have a bottle of that right now.
Yeah. So Prometheus is going to be our 100 proof bourbon that actually focuses on a really unique type of corn called it's a flint corn called Floriani. It's actually the only spicy corn we've ever come across. It does really amazing. Like it's one of my favorite products that we do. It's a Texas exclusive, that particular whiskey, but
that.
it's like it pairs perfectly in like Manhattans and old fashions because that spice helps stand up to all like any of the sweeter stuff that you do with cocktails really, really well. And it just has jumped in on this Fiji rum, and just that the spice component is just beautiful. In this.
So how? What's the difference in terms of sales success of something that's more designed for cocktails and something that's more designed to be a sipper? Does the cocktail cocktail stuff tends to be lesser strength and lesser age, generally speaking? Does that mean that do those sell better?
I mean, for us, we don't actually. There's not like a differentiation of age of a product for us on that. It's, I would say, actually, Promethean sells better in Texas than the higher proof sipper. Outside of Texas, it's kind of the reverse of that, just because we don't sell the other one outside of Texas.
Well, this is incredible. Mm-hmm. This is just like
it's so spicy.
A spicy sensation. Yeah, it really is. Maybe one of the spicier rums I've ever had.
Yeah.
You know, and not it's not spiced rum. It's just
not
rum
rum
that is spicy, and it really works.
And we do have a spiced rum. It's called Cane Rock. Ask for it at your favorite retailer today. That's Cane Rock spiced rum.
I think one of our
big push on that right now.
Thank you for a word from our sponsor.
Yeah, I think one of our previous engineers asked for a whole bunch of that, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, that is what it is.
I feel like it's perfect with a cigar, though. Like the spiciness.
Well, absolutely. Any spirit that has an extra bit of spiciness, whether it's a rye or something like this, really does lend itself well
but
to
this
cigars.
Would stand up even with like a LFD double Lajero. This would be,
which is a monster cigar.
It's a beast. It's a beast.
Boom.
And this would stand up, I think, right next to that.
I'm impressed. Yeah, I'm impressed. Well, I'm impressed with all of these. In fact, we haven't had anything today from you guys that's been less than amazing. But unfortunately, we only have a few minutes in the show left, so we'll be back to wrap those up.
I'm going to try my Infinity Cup.
Yeah. Are you? For real?
For real.
All right.
We'll let you.
Too? We'll let you know what happens when we come back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Show number 326. We are bringing the spirits together, and that's not some sort of seance thing. This is about bringing
together.
It's a very
spiritual show.
Yeah, that's the way we do it. That's the way we roll here at Smoking and Toasting.
If you'd like spiritual advice,
honestly, two of our absolute favorite guests of all time, Dox and Robert Likarish, in the studio from Iron Root Distilling, of course, and from Maison Ferrand and Plantation Rums. And I got to tell you, I'm just such a fan of both of you guys' products. That's what makes this a great show for me. Well, that and the fact that we've been sampling so many of your products. But no, this...
It's funny. The more I sample, the more I like them.
The more I feel like burning up a car in Florida.
You always ask me, why do I bring a box full of stuff with me every time? That's exactly
why. Because we may drink a box full of stuff before the show is over. No, guys, it's such a pleasure to have you on. Seriously, this is such good stuff. And I love... To me, if there's any sort of mission of the show, it's to encourage people to drink better. You know, and I was like last night. I'm sitting. My wife and I went over to the Market Square area downtown. I got some sushi over at Sapporo. She got some food from Nico Nico's. We sat at one of the little tables. We had a couple of beers, and I'm watching people like pick up.
If you
the
end
beers.
up at Warren's, by the way, you are not ending up sober.
Yeah, I know, or La Carafe either. But only if you have cash on you.
Yes.
But my point is that I'm watching people like getting their stuff and walking to their tables with the beers they're purchasing out of the little refrigerated box there at Nico Nico's, and I'm like, guys, there's so much better beer in that box than what you chose. It's. If anything, that's really what the mission of the show is to tell you that there might be better stuff out there than what you've tried, and if there is, here's what we thought about it, and maybe you'll like it too. That's as simple as I can get. That plus samples is what the show's all about.
Because Dox doesn't like it doesn't mean it's not good.
That's right.
I disagree full-heartedly. and I brought my legal counsel to back me up. No, guys, I've often been accused of being a liquor snob, which that's always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And it's not that I'm a liquor snob. It's just I think the best way I can sum it up is that the human body can only consume so many alcoholic beverages in a lifetime safely. You got to make each one count.
I think that's as spot on as anything that's ever been said on the show.
Spending time making your liquors count. I don't know how you train them to do that. I think that'd be a waste of time. I would just drink them.
So anyway,
well, Guys, both of you are involved in just creating such good stuff, such goodwill. These are things that make people happy, or they're things that make me happy. And if they make me happy, then by God, they should make everybody else happy too. That's the way I feel about it. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah?
My infinity cup is delicious.
Oh my goodness! So, just to be clear, the infinity cup is where Ian's been pouring just a little bit of leftovers from each of the things we've tasted. Yeah?
Oddly delicious.
All right. So, what's in your infinity cup? Do you know?
Every spirit we've had.
Every spirit we've had, and is there beer in there too?
Nope, just
I
spirits.
got a little beer in mine.
Yeah.
I'm actually getting like kind of a Fruity Pebbles thing going here. So I'm excited about this.
By the way, there is a beer. Is it from Great Heights? That's
Greater Heights has a Fruity Pebbles.
Greater Heights has a Fruity Pebbles beer, and it's actually quite good.
This is not horrible.
No.
Yeah,
I've had
This
worse.
is pretty darn good, actually.
Well, it speaks to the quality of what you guys brought in today, because there have been some infinity cups that were just absolutely awful that we've had here on the show.
Did I say that on air earlier? This is the fancy way of doing a Matt Dillon.
Yeah, you did.
You don't know what Matt Dillon is.
Matthew Dillon. It's Matthew. I challenge you guys. Start your own infinity bottles. I'm telling you, you won't regret it.
It's fun.
Wow. Well, guys, we want to thank you so much for being on the program today. This is so much fun. It's always fun when we have Docs on, I have to say, no matter what the situation is. But having you on together with Robert, this was a real treat. This is a real treat for us, and not just because of the amazing spirits that we had a chance to drink. Ian, coming up in the next couple of weeks, Rachel Soto will join us next week. She is a rep with Beam Suntory. They apparently have some new things they want to showcase on the show, so we'll allow them to do that as long as
Yes, please.
we're allowed
She's
to taste.
the mistress of Maker's Marks.
Joe Breda with Old Humble Distilling joins us on the
he's so fun.
on the following week, and then Elena with Garrison Brothers will be joining us. So we got a lot of interesting whiskey in our future here. But I gotta say, big props to Iron Root for you guys doing this. To me, this just expands your brand in such a wonderful way. And these guys at Maison Ferrand, they know what they're doing. They'll get you out there and get you even more popular than you are now. And we want to thank you and encourage you to keep experimenting. Keep doing these things, because this is what makes this whole thing much more interesting. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next week. Remember, Smoking to Toast and Now debuts on Saturday afternoons at 4 p.m. for the podcast. And if you're hearing us on the radio, 2 p.m. on Saturday at whatever station.
And let us know what channel it is.
Yeah. Thank you. Keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll talk to you later. Cheers, y'all.